For 3 years, I swallowed my pride for love, willingly becoming a house husband, only to be mocked by my CEO wife as a kept loser. She smashed my trophy, kicked me out of the house, and assumed I was worthless. Little did she know, the lottery ticket I casually bought won me $2 billion. But that was just the startup capital. 1 month later, I parachuted into her company as the new owner. I tore up the proposal she had stayed up all night working on in front of everyone, and, in 10 minutes, provided a perfect solution worth billions. The entire room was in shock. The billion-dollar company she took such pride in, its core architecture was actually a draft I had thrown in the trash years ago. In that moment, she finally broke down. So, you were the genius all along, and I was the clown. I laughed coldly. You realize that now? Too bad. Game over. Your world is under my management. A loser thinks he can fly. Serena's voice pierced through the living room, dripping with undisguised mockery. I gripped the business plan for my studio, a document I'd spent half a month agonizing over, my knuckles turning white. Serena, this isn't about a loser trying to fly. This was my major in college. This is my dream. Stop calling me Serena. She stood up abruptly, snatched the plan from my hands, and tore it to shreds. The paper confetti drifted down like snow, landing at my feet. Caleb, take a look in the mirror. You're a house husband living off his wife. Don't you think talking about dreams is laughable? She pointed a manicured finger at the 3-year-old loungewear I was wearing, her face full of disgust. Your career is serving me. Do you understand? My chest tightened. 3 years into our marriage, I had given up a promising career in software engineering, willing to wash her hands and make her soup, all because she said she needed a stable home front. I believed her. But now, I had become the kept loser in her narrative. I bent down, wanted to pick up the shattered pieces of my dream from the floor, and perhaps pick up my shattered dignity along with them. A high heel stamped viciously onto the paper scraps, crushing my hand in the process. The pain was piercing. I looked up to see her cold, resolute face. Caleb, I'm warning you. Know your place. Don't entertain thoughts you shouldn't have. It embarrasses me. I slowly pulled my hand back, a bright red mark searing across the skin. I stood up and looked her in the eye. What if I think my self-respect is more important than your face? She laughed as if she'd heard the world's biggest joke, leaning back in amusement. Self-respect? A kept man is talking to me about self-respect. After she finished laughing, she walked over to the shelf in the entryway and picked up a crystal trophy. It was the first-place trophy I had won at the National Collegiate Coding Championship. Before I met her, it was the only highlight of my life. Is this your self-respect? She weighed in her hand. My heart constricted violently. Don't touch that. My voice was hoarse. The smile on her lips deepened, and she let go. Crash! The trophy hit the polished marble floor and shattered into pieces. The last thread of sanity in my mind snapped. I rushed over, not for the trophy, but to grab her and demand an answer. Why had she become like this? She thought I was going to hit her and screamed. Get out! Get the hell out of my house! She threw my phone and wallet out the front door with force, then slammed the door shut with a bang. Wearing only thin pajamas, I was locked out. Outside, the rain poured down in sheets. The freezing rain soaked me instantly. I was trembling all over, unable to tell if it was from the cold or the rage. The lights inside the villa were warm and bright, casting her blurred, indifferent silhouette against the window. My phone flashed twice in a puddle before the screen went permanently black. As for the cards in my wallet, she had already said during the argument that she had frozen them all. I was penniless with nowhere to go. I walked in the rain for a long time, finally lying down on a bench in Grant Park. The rain, hunger, and cold felt like 1,000 ants gnawing at my body. Using my broken phone, by the dim light of a street lamp, I saw the screen light up with its last 1% battery. It was Serena's Instagram story. A selfie of her at a high-end cocktail party. Makeup exquisite, smile bright. The caption read, "Finally, some peace and quiet." 5 words like 5 knives stabbing into my heart. The phone died completely. My world went black. A homeless old man collecting cans passed by, sighed, and handed me half a cold bagel. Then, from his cart of scraps, he pulled out a newspaper smelling of ink and oil and laid it over me. Son, fight with the family. Go back home. Don't try to tough it out. I didn't have the strength to answer. I stared at the lottery ad on the front page of the newspaper, the bright red numbers stinging my eyes. I tugged the corner of my mouth in a self-deprecating smile. Go back. Did I even have a home anymore? The next day, I didn't hear from her. The third day, still nothing. A week passed, and I became a bona fide vagrant in the park. By helping the old man sort plastic bottles, I earned $20. This was my entire net worth. $20, crumpled and smelling of sour waste. I walked past a convenience store. The red neon lottery sign was glaringly bright against the gray streetscape. Driven by some strange impulse, I walked in. Quick pick or your own numbers? The clerk asked without looking up. My own. I picked up the pencil, my hand still trembling slightly. I chose a few unrelated numbers. Our wedding anniversary. My birthday. Her birthday. And the day I was kicked out of the house. I wrote this sequence of humiliation, carved into my bones, onto a $2 ticket. With the little money remaining, I bought 2 of the cheapest hot dogs. Sitting on the park bench, I wolfed them down as if swallowing the hunger and humiliation of the past few days. The next day, I picked up a discarded newspaper someone had left behind and turned to the lottery results column. I saw the familiar string of numbers. Once, twice, 3 times. I checked them repeatedly. I didn't scream like a madman. I just sat on the bench, my body beginning to shake violently and uncontrollably. Tears gushed out without warning, mixed with suppressed laughter, choking me until I coughed. $2 billion. The numbers swirled in my brain, exploding into a massive black vortex. I was going to make her regret this. I was going to make her taste what it felt like to fall from the clouds. I didn't go to claim the prize immediately. First, I went to a public bathhouse and scrubbed myself inside and out with scalding hot water as if to wash away the humiliation of the past week. Then, I went to a department store and bought an outfit, ordinary but clean. Standing before the mirror in the restroom, I looked at the person who was both a stranger and familiar. Hair cut short, face clean-shaven, cheekbones defined by weight loss. Only the eyes were different. The warmth from before was gone. All that remained was a cold, calm chill, like a deep pool. I took out a cheap prepaid phone I just bought and dialed the high-security VIP hotline listed in the newspaper for jackpot winners. Hello. I'd like to inquire about the redemption and confidentiality protocols for a major jackpot. The voice on the other end instantly became incredibly respectful. The plan for revenge officially began in that moment. Serena, are you ready? Top lawyers and financial advisors assembled in the bank's VIP reception room, like soldiers awaiting inspection. I calmly completed all the paperwork. $2 billion. After taxes and a lump sum reduction, I used the funds to establish a private investment firm named Heartstar Capital. Heart from my name, Caleb Hart. Star from her company, Star Tech. I was going to use my heart to swallow her star. The first thing I did was contact the industry's top headhunter through my lawyer. I had only one requirement. I want a Harvard grad, specializing in financial mergers and acquisitions. The fastest, the most ruthless one you have. 3 days later, I met Harper Lane in a coffee shop. She wore a tailored suit, her hair pinned up, her gaze sharp. She sized me up, her eyes holding a trace of imperceptible scrutiny and slight disdain. The headhunter had likely told her my background, a lottery nouveau riche. She didn't beat around the bush. Mr. Hart, time is money. Please state your objective. I pushed a glass of water toward her. I want to hold a controlling interest in StarTech within a month. Harper paused, her coffee cup halfway to her lips, then revealed a mocking smile. Mr. Hart, StarTech has a market cap of over $4 billion. It's a star performer on the NASDAQ. Are you joking? I ignored her sarcasm. I've looked at StarTech's financial reports for the last 3 years. In the fourth quarter of last year, to boost performance, they signed an extremely high-risk betting agreement with an overseas supplier. This was not clearly disclosed in the financial statements. Additionally, their core technology moat relies excessively on CTO Jason Miller's team. And Jason's stock options fully vested 3 months ago. I looked at her calmly. It took me 10 minutes to see this. You, a Harvard elite. Do you need me to explain what that means? The mockery on Harper's face froze instantly. Her expression shifted from disdain to shock, and finally to intense interest and disbelief. She immediately pulled out her tablet, her fingers flying across the screen. 10 minutes later, she looked up, her view of me completely changed. You, how did you know? Even the top analyst teams would need a week to dig this information out. What did you do before? I smiled faintly. A house husband. She choked on my answer, but the light in her eyes grew brighter. She realized I was absolutely not just a lucky lottery winner. Target, controlling interest in StarTech within 1 month. At any cost, I repeated my command. Harper Lane took a deep breath, stood up, and extended her hand to me. Harper Lane, it's a pleasure to serve you, boss. For the next 3 weeks, I moved into the city's top presidential suite. I slept only 4 hours a day. Harper and her financial team, like a pack of voracious wolves, began hunting StarTech under my direction. All the information about StarTech stored in my brain, things I had studied out of boredom while at home, now became the sharpest weapons. I knew her company better than Serena did herself. We used multiple shell accounts to quietly absorb circulating shares on the secondary market. Simultaneously, Harper flew across the country to secretly contact minority shareholders who held key equity but were long dissatisfied with Serena's domineering style. While Serena was frantically busy in conference rooms trying to secure a major European order, completely unaware of the tidal wave rising beneath the surface. We had enough chips. Harper called, her voice laced with excitement. Boss, everything is ready. Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. The board of directors will receive our notice of change in control. I hung up the phone and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Below me lay the glittering lights of San Francisco. The Star Tech building was not far away, glowing arrogantly in the night. Soon, it would have a new master. Serena, is your carefully applied makeup ready to greet me? Monday 9:00 a.m. sharp. Star Tech's internal system popped up a company-wide announcement from a board. Notice regarding change of corporate control and appointment of new chairman. The entire company exploded instantly. Everyone stopped working, whispering, their faces written with shock and anxiety. What's happening? The company was acquired. There wasn't even a rumor. The CEO star no. Oh my God, Serena is so controlling. What is she going to do now? In Serena's executive office, her assistant rushed in, face pale. Ms. Star, it's bad. The company has been acquired. Serena was reading a document. She looked up sharply. She snatched the tablet from her assistant's hand. As she read the announcement, her face turned ashen. Her phone began ringing frantically, calls from shareholders and executives. She didn't answer a single one. She spent 10 minutes forcing herself to calm down. She straightened her haute couture suit, walked to the mirror, reapplied her lipstick, and ensured she looked impeccable. No matter who the new owner was, she, Serena Starr, was still the indispensable CEO of Star Tech. This was her final pride. At 10 a.m., the assistant knocked again. Ms. Starr, the new chairman has arrived. He's in his office and has asked you to come over to report in person. His office? Yes, it's your former office. Serena's body stiffened, but she maintained her professional smile. Her high heels clicked as she walked step by step toward the largest, most luxurious office in the company, the one that used to be hers. She carried a trace of anxiety and a trace of defiance. She wanted to see exactly who had the thunderous means to take everything from her. She stood before the door, took a deep breath, and knocked. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. A voice so familiar it made her heart palpitate came from inside. Serena pushed the door open, wearing her standard, respectful smile. She saw a figure with his back to her, sitting in the executive chair she had occupied for 5 years. Hello, Chairman. I am the company CEO, Serena Starr, here to report to you. The chair slowly swiveled around, revealing the face she had trampled on so recklessly not long ago, a face that now plunged her into an icy abyss. It was Caleb Hart. The smile on Serena's face froze instantly, then shattered. Her pupils contracted sharply, and her lips began to tremble uncontrollably. The color drained from her face, leaving it deathly pale. She instinctively took a step back, her body swaying. Caleb, how can it be you? I didn't answer her question. I simply leaned back in a wide chair, hands clasped in front of me, looking her up and down with the gaze of someone inspecting merchandise. My eyes were filled with the mockery and coldness she knew so well. Then, imitating the exact tone and pitch she had used when she kicked me out that night, I spoke word by word. Gout, without my permission, you are not allowed in. Humiliation, shock, fear, absurdity. Countless emotions intertwined on her face, twisting her beautiful features into something almost grotesque. She froze in place, as if under a spell. I didn't look at her again. I just lowered my head and started reading a file. A few seconds later, I heard her unsteady footsteps as she practically fled the room. The door clicked shut softly. I put down the file and let out a long breath. The thrill of revenge surged through my body like an electric current. Serena, this is just the beginning. Everything you inflicted upon me, I will make you taste 100, 1,000 times over. The office intercom buzzed. It was Serena's assistant, sounding terrified. Chairman Ms. Starr asks if she can come in now. Let her come in with Harper Lane and all the department directors. I ordered indifferently. A few minutes later, there was a knock. Serena walked in first, followed by Harper and a group of company executives. She kept her head down, afraid to look at me, her face still pale. The executives were all secretly sizing us up with complex looks of curiosity, pity, and schadenfreude. The rumors in the company had already gone wild. The new chairman was the ex-husband the female CEO had kicked out of the house. This was better than any corporate drama on TV. Seat. I pointed to the sofa. Everyone sat down except for Serena, who remained standing like a prisoner awaiting sentencing. CEO Star, why are you standing? I picked up the empty cup on the desk. Go make me a cup of coffee. Serena's body jerked violently as she looked up at me in disbelief. I met her gaze, the corner of my mouth curling into a playful smile. Pour verre. The same taste as we had at home. I emphasized the word home. The expressions on the executives' faces became fascinating. This wasn't a work order. This was naked humiliation. Serena's face turned the color of raw liver, her fists clenched tight at her sides. Her dignity was being trampled under my feet in front of all her subordinates. I didn't rush her. I just watched her quietly. I knew she would do it, because right now, she had nothing and could only depend on me, just like I used to be. Finally, looking as if all her strength had been drained, she unclenched her fists and turned toward the pantry. The office was dead silent. Harper sat beside me, expressionless, but her eyes held a glimmer of satisfaction. Soon, Serena returned, carefully holding a cup of pour-over coffee, and handed it to me. I took it, sniffed it, and then, right in front of everyone, poured it directly into the potted plant next to me. Splash. The brown liquid soaked the green leaves. Too bitter. I handed the empty cup back to her. Do it again. Serena bit her lip until it bled, but she said nothing. She took the cup and silently went back. The second time, I said it was too hot. The third time, too weak. The fourth time, I said there was too much foam. She made it 5 times before I barely nodded and took a sip. All right, meeting starts now. I set the cup down as if nothing had happened. First item. Amanunciar personnel appointement. Harper Lane will serve as the company's chief operating officer, COO, effective immediately. She answers only to me and is above everyone else. From now on, all departmental decisions, including those of the CEO, must be reviewed by Harper before they reach me. Boom! The appointment exploded in the conference room like a bomb. Everyone looked at Serena. This was pulling the rug out from under her. I had stripped away her last shred of real power as CEO, turning her into a complete puppet. Serena swayed, nearly losing her balance. Second item. I looked at Serena. Your current office has too good a view. It's a bit of a waste. Starting today, it will be converted into a public reception room. As for your new office, I paused, enjoying the deepening despair on her face. I recall the storage room on the 3rd floor is empty. Clean it up, and the CEO can move in there. After the meeting, everyone left my office as fast as they could. The way they looked at Serena had shifted from sympathy to pure ridicule. A vice president named Brad Walsh stayed behind. Before I arrived, he was the number 2 man in the company, second only to Serena, and had always coveted her position. Chairman, you truly have foresight. He smiled fawningly at me. That woman Serena needed someone to put her in her place long ago. Relying on being the founder, she acted like a dictator in the company and never respected us veterans. He began reporting Serena's various past misdeeds and hinting that he could share my burden and help completely sideline her. I listened, non-committal. I just said one thing calmly. I hear your thoughts. I was happy to watch them tear each other apart. Serena, how does it feel to be deserted by everyone? A critical AI project at the company hit a deadlock. This was StarTech's focus for the second half of the year, crucial to the company's future stock price and market position. For this project, Serena practically lived at the office, pulling several all-nighters leading her team to create a new proposal. At the board meeting, she stood in front of the projector, forcing herself to look energetic as she detailed her plan. I had to admit, even in her fallen state, her professional skills were still intact. The logic was clear, the data solid. Several new directors looked approving. After she finished, scattered applause rang out in the room. She instinctively looked at me, her eyes holding a trace of hidden expectation. Perhaps she thought this was her chance to prove her value and change my opinion of her. I looked at her expressionlessly. Once everyone quieted down, I spoke slowly. I object. 2 words made the air in the conference room freeze instantly. Serena's face went pale. Why? She couldn't help but retort. Chairman, this is already the optimal plan the team can produce. Her voice carried a hint of unwillingness and grievance. Optimal. I laughed coldly, stood up, and walked to the whiteboard. I didn't look at her 50-page PowerPoint. I picked up a marker and wrote 3 terms on the board. Tech mode, market channels, capital risk. Your plan looks perfect, but it actually has 3 fatal flaws. I turned around, my gaze sweeping over everyone present before landing on Serena. First, your so-called technological breakthrough is just tinkering with existing open-source frameworks. It doesn't constitute a moat. Once a tech giant enters the field, we'll be crushed. Second, your projected market channels rely too heavily on our existing B2B clients, completely ignoring the massive potential of the consumer market. This is typical strategic laziness. Third, and most fatal, to get quick results, you designed an extremely cash-burning promotion model without considering the subsequent strain on the capital chain. Once market feedback falls short of expectations, the entire company will be dragged down by this project. With every sentence I spoke, Serena's face grew a shade paler. I didn't stop. For the next half hour, starting from zero, I reconstructed a completely new proposal on the whiteboard. The technical path I proposed was a niche but cutting-edge direction her team had never heard of. The market strategy one mapped out was a multidimensional network linking B2B and consumer sectors, online and offline. The capital model I designed involved phased investment with controlled risk and reserved interfaces for strategic investors. My plan, its logic so tight, its vision so sharp, its scope so grand, was dimensions above hers. The entire conference room was silent. Everyone looked at me like I was a monster, including Harper, whose eyes shone with undisguised admiration. And Serena. She stared blankly at the perfect commercial blueprint on the whiteboard, then at me. For the first time, she discovered that the man she had spent the last 3 years belittling daily, the man she thought was good for nothing, possessed a business vision and genius conceptualization she couldn't hope to match. All her past disdain and mockery toward me turned into a resounding slap across her own face in that moment. When the meeting ended, I wiped the whiteboard clean. I threw the mess back to her. I'll give you 1 week. Execute the details according to my plan. If you can't do it, get out. I looked at her. For the first time in front of me, she revealed a look of utter confusion and self-doubt. The best way to destroy a person's pride is to utterly crush them in the field they are most proud of. Serena, is your world starting to collapse? The project proceeded according to my plan and achieved unprecedented success. StarTech's stock price soared, and my reputation within the company reached its peak. Serena, meanwhile, became a total joke. Everyone knew the company's resurrection was due to the new chairman's stroke of genius. And she, the former CEO, was just a disposable executor. Her position in the company was precarious. She started to get scared. That day after work, I stepped out of the elevator to see her waiting by my parking spot in the garage. She looked haggard. Even light makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. She was holding an insulated lunchbox. Seeing me, she squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. Caleb, you're off work. She held out the lunchbox. I made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. I didn't take it. I didn't even look at her, walking straight toward my car. She followed behind me, her voice hoarse and pleading. Caleb, let's talk. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I opened the car door, ready to get in. Talk about what? I finally spoke, my voice devoid of any warmth. Talk about how you kicked me out. Or talk about how majestic you looked when you smashed my trophy. She choked on my words, her eyes reddening instantly. Just then, a red Porsche pulled up and stopped smoothly beside me. The window rolled down. It was Harper. She smiled at me. Boss, need a ride? I'm heading away to drop you at the hotel. Without hesitation, I closed my door, walked around, and got into Harper's passenger seat. This was the seat Serena and I had argued about countless times. She always said my cheap car made her feel embarrassed, even sitting in the passenger seat. Once I was settled, I said to Harper, let's go. The car started. Outside, without warning, a torrential downpour began. Exactly like the night I was kicked out. In the rearview mirror, I saw Serena chase the car a few steps, holding that ridiculous lunchbox. Her high heel twisted on the wet ground, and she fell awkwardly. The lunchbox hit the ground, spilling carefully cooked ribs everywhere. She didn't get up. She just knelt there, letting the freezing rain soak through her expensive suit. Her figure in the rain was so small, so pathetic. Just like me lying on the park bench that night. I withdrew my gaze expressionlessly. There was no ripple in my heart, not even the pleasure of revenge. Just a dead desert silence. Harper sensed the mood, but was smart enough to ask nothing, simply turning on the music. A soothing piano melody flowed through the car. I closed my eyes. Serena, the despair you feel now isn't even 1/10,000th of what I felt. This is still only the beginning. StarTech's 10th anniversary gala was grand. I rented the most luxurious hotel ballroom in the city, inviting all business partners and media. This was my first official public appearance since taking over. One segment of the gala was a review of the company's history. I specifically arranged for Serena, as the company founder and former CEO, to give a speech on stage. I wanted her to fall the hardest at her most glorious moment. She clearly saw this as an opportunity too. She wore a silver-white haute couture gown, applied exquisite makeup, and regained some of her former female CEO charisma. Standing on stage, her voice was emotional as she recounted how she started from nothing, overcoming obstacles to build StarTech into what it was today. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Everyone cheered for this legendary female entrepreneur. Reaching the emotional climax, tears in her eyes, her voice choked up. StarTech is like my child. I gave it my everything. Now, I signaled Harper in the audience. Harper nodded and pressed the remote in her hand. The image on the giant LED screen behind Serena suddenly changed. It was no longer the company's glorious promotional video. Instead, it was a handwritten, yellowing business plan. On the cover of the plan, a signature was scrawled in bold strokes. Call apart. The noise in the audience gradually died down as everyone looked at the screen in confusion. Only Serena, the moment she saw that plan, looked as if she had been struck by lightning. The color drained from her face instantly. She swayed and nearly fell. The PowerPoint on the screen flipped page by page. The core philosophy, technical architecture, market analysis, business model, nearly identical to the path StarTech later took to success. Actually, it was even more forward-looking and perfect than the path StarTech actually walked. Everyone understood. The banquet hall fell into a deathly silence. As Serena looked at the plan she thought had been thrown out with the trash long ago, a memory she had deliberately suppressed flooded her mind uncontrollably. It was when we were first married. I was still a core programmer at a top tech company, full of ambition. I stayed up several nights writing this plan and excitedly showed it to her. Serena, look, this is my startup plan. We can do this together. We can definitely build a great company. How had she responded? She had glanced at it once and threw the plan into the trash next to her. Caleb, stop daydreaming. Startups aren't that easy. Can't you just work a stable job? I don't need a great entrepreneur husband. I just need a man who can take care of the house. She didn't know. Later, during her so-called entrepreneurial low point, while she bitterly pondered the company's direction, she had a stroke of genius for a brilliant startup idea. She had simply, subconsciously, picked back up the dream her husband had created, the one she had personally killed from the trash can. And then, with peace of mind, she erased his name. I stood up, took the microphone from the MC, and walked slowly onto the stage. I walked up to her, looking at her paper-pale face and violently trembling body. Speaking into the microphone, my voice rang clearly through the hall. It seems CEO Star's memory isn't very good. This plan was my senior thesis in college, and a dream I once wanted to share with you. I paused, looking into her eyes, and spoke word for word. But I still have to congratulate you. Congratulations on turning it into a billion-dollar company. Boom! The audience exploded. Everyone looked at Serena with a mix of disdain, shock, and complexity. Stealing her husband's dream? A cuckoo occupying the magpie's nest? This character arc was far more exciting than some self-made story. Serena swayed on stage. Everything she took pride in, her achievements, her halo, her legendary story, all turned into a massive joke in that moment. She wasn't a genius entrepreneur. She was just a despicable thief. She was the real clown. The scandal at the anniversary gala caused Serena's social death. She locked herself at home, took a long leave of absence, and stopped appearing at the company. The company's stock price fluctuated due to the founder's moral stain. Vice President Brad Walsh, who had long coveted the CEO position, felt his time had come. He privately united several old shareholders dissatisfied with me, as well as a predatory external capital firm, preparing to force my hand at the next board meeting. In his view, I was just a lucky nouveau riche who stabilized the company with a moment of cleverness. But regarding real capital operations and corporate power struggles, I was surely an amateur. With the right moves, it would be easy to sideline me or even kick me out. To increase his odds, he found Serena. He drove to the Villa District and waited at her gate for a whole day. When Serena finally appeared, she looked gaunt, like a flower that had instantly withered. Brad handed her an agreement. Serena, stop moping. As long as you support me at the board meeting and testify that Caleb is mismanaging the company, once I become chairman, the vice president position is yours. This is your only chance to take back some power. He thought that for a woman like Serena, who valued power more than life, this would be an offer she couldn't refuse. Serena looked at the agreement and was silent for a long time. Just when Brad thought she was going to agree, she shook her head. Brad, put away your little schemes. You can't beat him. With that, she turned and walked away without looking back. This was the first time she hadn't chosen the path most beneficial to herself. She returned home and turned on her computer. Dragging her sick body, she locked herself in the study for 3 days and 3 nights. She compiled evidence of all the kickbacks Brad had taken over the years, his factionalism, and even his secret selling of company interests to competitors. She had known about many of these things before, but had turned a blind eye. Now, she was digging all up. On the day of the board meeting, the atmosphere was tense. Brad, united with the old shareholders, attacked first. Chairman, since taking office, while you have credit, you act too arbitrarily and completely disrespect the opinions of us veterans. Especially recently, allowing your personal vendetta to expose the founder's scandal has caused the stock to plummet. You must take responsibility for this. I propose we elect a new chairman. He spoke passionately, as if he were the company's savior. I sat at the head of the table, listening quietly, even smiling slightly. When he finished, I signaled Harper, "Let Mr. Walsh and the directors hear something interesting." Harper turned on the projector and played a recording. It clearly broadcast the entire conversation between Brad and the external capital firm plotting to short Star Tech stock, force a coup at the board meeting, and divide the profits afterward. Brad's face instantly turned the color of a corpse. You set me up." He pointed at me, flustered and exasperated. Just as he was preparing for a final desperate struggle, the conference room door opened. Serena walked in. She was skeletally thin, but her eyes were unusually calm. She walked to the conference table and threw a thick stack of documents into the center. "This is all the evidence of Brad Walsh betraying the company from his first day here. Every item is documented." Brad looked at the pile of documents and collapsed into his chair. He knew he was finished. I made a call, and soon 2 security guards came in and dragged the ashen-faced Brad out. The conference room fell instantly silent. Only Serena and I remained, facing each other. She looked at me, her eyes holding complex emotions I couldn't read. I was somewhat surprised. I hadn't expected that she would be the one to solve my trouble in the end. In the conference room, the air was quiet enough to hear breathing. Serena stood there looking at me, her eyes filled with unprecedented fragility and regret. After a long time, she finally spoke, her voice terribly hoarse. "Okay, love, I'm sorry. I didn't speak, just watched her quietly. I wanted to see what new trick she was playing. I was wrong. I was so incredibly wrong." Her tears fell, without warning, drop by drop, hitting the expensive conference table. I was blinded by fame and fortune. I was swept away by those illusory halos. I personally destroyed everything we had. She began to recall when we first got together. She had just started her business, with no money and no resources. It was I who gave her all my savings to support her. It was I who stayed by her side silently when she stayed up late writing proposals, writing code for her, solving technical problems. It was I who acted as her strongest shield every time she encountered difficulties and wanted to give up. You were so good to me, pushing all the credit to me, willing to stand behind me. But me? How'd I treat you? I took your kindness for granted. I took your sacrifices for the family as weakness and lack of ambition. I even stole your dream and turned around to mock you as a loser. She sobbed as she spoke, her body trembling from violent convulsions. I remained silent. These belated confessions were meaningless to me. The damage was done. The wound might heal, but the scar would always remain. Suddenly, she did something I hadn't anticipated. Her legs gave way, and, right in front of me, she knelt straight down. Her knees hit the hard floor with a dull thud. The once arrogant, high and mighty queen was now humble as dust. "Caleb, please." She lifted her tear-stained face, looking up at me. "Give me one more chance, okay? Let's start over. Go back to the past. I don't want anything else. I just want you. I'll give the company back to you. I'll be your assistant. I'll cook for you. I'll serve you. Just let me stay by your side." I watched her kneeling at my feet, looked at her face twisted by crying. There was no pleasure in my heart, nor any pity, only absurdity and fatigue. I finally stood up from the executive chair and walked slowly to her. I squatted down to be at eye level with her. I looked into her eyes, those eyes that once made me fall in love and then made me despair. Then, using the quietest, cruelest voice, I softly said 2 words. "Too late. Get up." I reached out, intending to help her up, but she tried to grab my hand. I instinctively avoided her touch. Her hand froze in midair, the color fading from her face even more. I turned and walked back to the desk, took a file from the drawer, and placed it in front of her. She looked at the file, her eyes full of fear. She probably thought it was her termination letter. Open it. My voice was calm. She opened the file with trembling hands. Then she froze. It wasn't a termination letter. It was two agreements already signed by me. One was a divorce agreement. The other was a stock gift deed. She looked up, staring at me, in confusion. I explained the contents simply. In the divorce agreement, I leave with nothing. This villa, the cars, and the remaining money in my accounts, they all go to you. I don't want any of it. In the gift deed, I'm unconditionally transferring all 51% of the StarTech shares I personally hold to you. Serena was completely stunned. She didn't understand why I would do this at all. It wasn't logical. This wasn't how an Avenger behaved. Why? She murmured the question, her voice full of confusion and anxiety. Don't you hate me? Aren't you taking revenge on me? Why? I acquired it just to prove to you that I could. I cut her off. Now it's proven. I looked into her eyes, which were filled with shock and bewilderment. I continued. I did hate you. On that rainy night, lying on the park bench freezing to death, I hated you enough to want to tear you to pieces. But now, I paused, looking for the right word. Now all I feel for you is indifference. Indifference. Those words hurt her more than any vicious curse. This company was built by you picking up my dream. From its roots, it carries my DNA. Now, I'm returning it to you intact. I'm returning you to yourself as well. Serena, congratulations. Starting today, you are once again the high and mighty sole owner of StarTech. I looked at her and showed the first genuine smile I'd had in a month. The cruelest revenge isn't destruction. It's giving you back everything you wanted most, and then telling you, I don't want it anymore. I give you the supreme throne, but that throne will never wait for its king again. Your kingdom will be your eternal, lonely prison. I didn't look at her again. I picked up my only personal item, the crystal trophy, crisscrossed with cracks where I had glued it back together. I walked out of the office, walked out of the building I had bought with my own hands. Downstairs, Harper was leaning against her red Porsche, waiting for me. The sun shone on her, dazzlingly bright. Seeing the trophy in my hand, she smiled. It's all over? I nodded. Yeah, it's all over. An unprecedented sense of relief washed over me. So where are we going? Harper opened the passenger door for me. I sat in, watching the StarTech building reseed outside the window, and laughed. It was the first relaxed laugh from the bottom of my heart in a month. Anywhere works. Let's go create our own Heartstar. Using the nearly $500 million remaining from my winnings, combined with my long-buried talent, I founded a new tech company with Harper. The name is Heartstar Capital. Heart is my name, Caleb Hart. Star represents the empire I conquered. I used my heart to swallow the star. A few months later, I received a courier package from Serena. Inside was the divorce agreement signed with her name. She became the sole owner of StarTech. Later, I saw in business news that she managed the company well, more successfully than before, with a market cap hitting new highs repeatedly. But everyone who met her said that CEO, Star never truly smiled again. I heard she moved her office back to that dark, damp storage room. I heard she often goes to that park alone, sitting on the bench I once lay on, staying there all night. I heard she filled every corner of the villa we used to live in with things related to me, guarding that empty house alone. As for me, I never looked back. She got the company she was so proud of, obtained the success she dreamed of. But she forever lost the entire world that once belonged to her, the world she personally pushed away on that stormy night. Story complete.